Alright, and welcome back to the series I'm doing on world building basics. Now, this one is going to be about when to build more. And the answer to that question is very simple: when you need to. Okay, so in the last video we left off, we decided it's going to be a story about a woodcutter, a chosen one story that's going to save the forest. Basically, I was just looking at this picture right here on fantasynamegenerators.com and just got some ideas from that so I could give an example and start showing how to get started with world building. So now let's talk about building that idea out and what you need to build out. So if there's a woodcutter, where does the woodcutter live? Okay, what are they saving the forest from? Who else lives in the forest? Are there any larger settlements in the forest? Okay, these are the types of questions that you ask yourself. It's very simple, straightforward, but narrative and basic logic, simple logic, is just what you're doing is you're taking this first initial little idea. We have a woodcutter chosen one story that's going to save the forest. It's a big forest, it's a pine forest in the north. Okay, that's all the idea we had to start with. So where do you go from there? You ask yourself questions, and then you start answering those questions. If you get stuck, you use an AI like ChatGPT to get some ideas to brainstorm with, pick things you like, get rid of things you don't, tweak things that you're not 100% on board with to get to where you want them to be, and then you go from there. So where does the woodcutter live? Okay, do we want this to be like a cottage in the woods? Is this a person that lives on their own? Do they live in a town that's inside this forest? Let's say that they live in a town inside the forest, next to a river, because generally speaking, towns will always be next to a source of water or very close to a source of water, unless there is a reason for them not to be. But that is a different video. Really, that's getting into like geography and things, but we can go ahead and just include some little details. So we know they're going to live in a town inside the forest that's next to a river. What are they saving the forest from? Go ahead and just add some extra spaces here so everything is nice and organized. So what are they saving the forest from? Well, we could go with kind of a Lorax sort of thing and say that there's an outside or Fern Gully or any number of other bits of fiction and real world example. And let's take some inspiration from, say, the Amazon. There is a plains kingdom that borders the forest, and they are starting hack and slash forestry to clear more space for cattle ranches. Okay, so that's taking a real world example, adding a little bit of a real world issue into the story, and it gives us our antagonist, basically. So who else lives in the forest? Well, you know, it's fantasy. You probably would want to have some elves or fairies or forest folk or something. Let's go and just go something simple and just say woodland elves, the wee folk, and oh, um, dryads. Okay, you can always add more later, but for now we're just brainstorming and building out a few more details. Are there any large settlements in the forest? Um, let's say no. No, there aren't. We don't need that question anymore because it no longer is relevant to what we're doing. Okay, now what? Well, now it's a matter of going through again and what else needs to be added. Okay. Um, what are these people doing to help the forest? And some of this is directly tied to your plot and everything, and characters and plot building and all that, because in a very real sense, when you are writing a novel, your story and your world building are completely enmeshed together. That's why it's kind of difficult to just show you how to do one thing without including elements of the other. Because if you are just world building, you're not really writing a story, and you're not creating a world for that story. You are world building for the sake of world building. If you are world building for a story, you need to know what the story is, at least in bits and pieces. You need some general ideas and plot points and things, and that guides the world building. Okay? And the same is true for doing an RPG campaign. Okay? It's good to have a little bit of the world built out and some history and things, especially for whatever the campaign hook is going to be. But generally speaking, you don't need to try to build an entire world, even if you're doing an RPG campaign. You just need to focus on what matters most for the start of the campaign. And the same is true of a novel. You focus on what you need to start the story, and then to build out the story. Okay? So we're going to say that it's a little town. We can go ahead and come over to places and locations here just to get a name right quick. I say this all the time. There is no such thing as the perfect name. There is only the name you like and that fits the story. So don't waste your time trying to come up with the perfect name, thinking up names, whatever. Use some random generators and get something you like. So let's just say, is there like a forest town name? I know there's Elvish in here. We can just go with a Viking since it's going to be northern. Husavik. Husavik. Grinevik? Grinevik. Let's take that. Only we're going to change it to Greenevik. So the name of the town is going to be Greenevik. Little bit of a Nordic sound, but we're also, it's green because it's in a forest, Greenevik. And if that doesn't appeal to you, you simply keep looking until something does. And I always try to sound out names before I settle on them, because I want it to be something that people can pronounce. If people can't say it, it's not a good name. Protagonist names often, in my opinion, should be kind of snappy, should roll off the tongue fairly easily. But I will also re-say, that there is no such thing as the perfect name, okay? If Tolkien had decided on something other than Frodo Baggins or Bilbo Baggins, we would be talking about those characters and not the Bilbo or Frodo. Okay? They weren't perfect names, they were just good names that he liked, that fit his story, and then they became iconic names. There's a big difference. There's no such thing as a perfect name. Okay. So now we have some details that we can continue building out as we go. And I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up here, because this really is the second step. It's just a matter of taking your initial story, you add a few details and then you go back through and add a few more details, then you go back through and add a few more details, and you keep going until you hit a point where you need to start focusing on certain details. And that's what the next videos will be getting into, is more focused details. So thanks very much for watching. Hit that hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to like. Leave a comment letting me know what you have issues with world building, and I will address those either in more videos or directly in the comments. I have resources in the description that you can check out if you want some more in-depth guides, the Amazon books. So thank you very much for watching once again. I'll see you on the next one. Later.